Unconfusing the confusion. Hey, this is Dr. George Moricz, your youthful regenerative medicine doctor. Today we are going to unconfuse the confusion about one of the hottest topics, buzzwords that we hear. You hear aging, you hear youth, you hear anti-aging, you hear about longevity, and then you hear about regenerative medicine. Well, in a very short amount of time, I promise to clear all of these things up and guarantee to have you leaving with some perspectives and tools that will forever change the way you see this topic. First of all, what is the definition of aging? If you look at most dictionaries, they'll talk about the process of growing old. And in humans, this is an accumulation of changes over time, which could be physical, psychological, and social. But really, it's decline. Okay, that, when an organism leads to senescence, a decline of biological functions, what happens, it doesn't adapt. Okay, it's not pretty. Anyone who ever visits a nursing home will know that there's been a decline for most of these individuals in their cognitive, neurologic function, and then even biologic function, ability to move and control their bowel and bladder. It's a very sad process. On the other hand, what is the definition of youth? Well, they understand it as a transition of, from childhood to adulthood independence. So it's a positive connotation. It's sort of the time that you spend, appearing well, feeling well. If you're a woman, you're happy, optimistic. If you're a male, you have all the confidence in the world. There's a sense of freshness, vigor, spirit. If you like to read literature, you'll see all the connotations of thinking, of love. You're not as risk averse. So there really is a big difference, even in a non-medical sense, when you read about the period of life between, youth and maturity, the state of being young. Having said that, there is a difference between the number of birthdays you have and biologic aging. And while here it's not important to talk about the testing that shows changes in your DNA, the way that your DNA acts, and all the different little components within your cell, we don't have the time to go into how they function. But everything from your powerhouses, your mitochondria, to the way that you make proteins and enzymes, to the inefficiencies of the cells, old cells being gotten rid of through the body. There are ways to do that versus people who multiply bad copies of cells, even those that become cancerous. So we're kind of hitting the gamut of everything from the way that you function to the way that things are inside. The things you can see, the things that are hidden. So with no reservation, we need to understand that youth is perfect health. And many of you discover when you work with someone like myself, while most medical problems are not really medical problems at all when you have youth. And when all your friends are aging before their years, you and your family could be truly healthy because they follow a formula. They believe and follow the formula that once gave them youth. See, people come to me and say, Dr. Moricz, you talk about these natural youthful chemicals that you had in youth, but aren't those the things that actually gave you youth? And you're right, because once you discover that, once you discover the roadmap, the blueprint, basically the very organization, the structure of how things worked years ago, you start enjoying the benefits of being young again. I mean, that is very, very significant. Now, I know there's people sitting here listening to this, saying to themselves, why is this so important? Why is the solution of returning someone to youth or their blueprint or what I call their youthful blueprint so important? Well, as many of you recognize, if you're 40 or older, your mind and body are undergoing accelerated aging. And if you're unconvinced of that, take a look at a high school reunion photo, 10, 20, 30 years from when you graduated. Between 20 and 30, there's certain hidden but also slow visible signs of aging. Between 30 and 40, there's definitely an acceleration of physical aging. And between 40 and 50, it's hyper-accelerated aging all the way. And it goes on and on. Right now, traditional medical approaches simply aren't working to keep you youthful and naturally healthy. They're trying to get you healthy in a way that's completely opposite than getting you youthful so you can be healthy. See, that's the difference in anti-aging regenerative medicine, is you get someone youthful, okay? You work on the things that worked years ago, all the things I mentioned, cells, their signaling mechanisms, you reduce inflammation, you boost the immune system, you correct the items, the factory of machinery that has kept everything from your brain, your body, to everything from its metabolism to the way that it deals with stress. You keep it functioning well, like a souped up sports car, okay, not a rundown car. So once you do that, you have this opportunity. So you need to get this window of opportunity now before more irreversible and changes occur in your beauty and health take place. See, people come to me and say, well, I read that, I now need those sex hormones because I hit menopause if you're a woman, or men an andropause. And the reality is that aging started, somewhere between 30 and 50. I have noticed and documented changes in most people in their late 20s and early 30s. Okay, think back to that high school reunion. And these days, I'm seeing it in the late teens and early 20s. There are physical signs of aging, okay? You can see it in the face, hair, you can see it in the body composition, you can see it in mobility, you can see it in cognitive function, you can see it in recovery, and you can certainly see it in the immune system. And never has been more attention played on this than the stress that's being placed on the brain and body. With all this computerization, smartphone time, exposure to viruses, unhealthy lifestyle, environmental toxins disrupting these youthful chemical messengers, now is the window of opportunity before more irreversible changes take place in people's beauty and health. So when people start looking at this blueprint that you had years ago, they're no longer waiting till 50 or 60 and saying, hey, I've got to do something. And intelligence has nothing to do with it. Some of the smartest people figured they could wait to their later years and then jumpstart longevity medicine. When people come to a doctor like me, they say, hey, Dr. Moricz, are you one of those doctors that tries to get people to live to 120? I say, not exactly. Are you one of those doctors that wants to prevent anything from diabetes, heart attack, strokes, obesity? Is that your main focus? Well, not exactly. I said, well, what do you do? Well, I try to optimize the brain and body, especially for people in their middle years. So from 30 onwards to 60, by tackling those changes early, okay, road mapping people, taking them back to this youthful blueprint that has worked so well, they start functioning better. They're enjoying their lives better with family, their productivity's up, and the truth is they really are the envy of their friends. They look, feel, and perform like they did years ago. That really is what the essence of anti-aging regenerative medicine is all about. So yes, I do help people potentially live longer. It's hard to prove. Do I prevent some of those morbid conditions that people go? Yes, I can see it 10 to 15 years in advance. But really what I think I'm doing the best is helping optimize their brain and body function. That's really the thing that I feel that all the people who write their success stories are telling me. So what is another way to look at this? In other words, Imagine this, you're 20 years of age, you look and feel as good as can be, maybe the best you ever did in your life. Now, it would be probably almost impossible to convince you to come into my office because you're feeling far too good and see absolutely no need for me at this time. But you come anyway, you come to my office, we draw blood, we do very comprehensive testing and questionnaires. We take all this information, we put it in a time capsule, we go in the backyard, we get a shovel and we bury it. Then 10, 20, 30 years later, 10, 20, 30 years later from when you're 20, when things aren't going so well for you in your life, your energy, focus, metabolism, health problems, you return to my office and say, hey, Dr. Moricz, I think it's time that we tap into the blueprint of what was going on for me so well years ago. So we go in the backyard, we take the shovel, and we dig up this time capsule. And then the magic begins by rewinding you back to that perfect combination of natural youthful chemicals that ran through your brain and body years ago. That really is your youthful blueprint. That's when things ran better than ever. This is the essence of what anti-aging and regenerative medicine is having this blueprint so when things get worse, you rewind someone back and you keep tuning them until not only their signs and symptoms get better, but you're actually making them more efficient, more healthy, and youthful. This is Dr. George Moricz as your youthful regenerative doctor, showing you the essence of youth, aging, longevity, and anti-aging regenerative medicine.